Good afternoon. My name is Larry Harris. I'm a longtime resident of the Friendship community, town of Apex. So I have to tell you that Friendship got started in 1840, some 30 years prior to the chartering of the town of Apex. I'm going to ask my friend and fellow historian, Toby Holleman, who authored the book of the history of Apex, to tell the background of the story. I will say that my grandfather, John Evans, and his father, Carl Holleman, they developed the first history of the first centennial of the town of Apex in 1973. We're now celebrating the 150th year anniversary. So Toby, if you can give voice to the background, I'd appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Cousin Larry.
You're welcome.
The story of Friendship begins in the 1600s when Larry's family came into America in around Jamestown, and my family came at about the same time, though they did not know one another, we think, at that time. Around 1800, both families separately migrated from the Tidewater part of Virginia over the line into North Carolina and came west until they settled in western Wake County. My own family settled about 5 miles from Friendship. In about the 1840s, and this is where history and legend kind of blur together because this is an oral story, not written down anywhere, but based on oral reports that my brother Warren, who co-authored the book with me, conducted. The story is, it goes like this. There were 3, one might even argue 4 different groups of people who lived in this community. There were free blacks, there were slave blacks, there were whites, and there were a group of people who had migrated from, we think, West Virginia, who belonged to the Tuscarora Native American group. So you have these 4 groups, or we'll just say 3, red, white, and black. And they get along pretty well, but around on the outside of the community, it's very rough. Racial enmity and strife is quite common. The people in here, in this community, however, say, we want something different. We don't want to live that way. We want to live at peace. And it might have helped the fact that there was a little intermarrying thing going on, and that sort of helped cement relationships. At any rate, they finally decided they needed to do something to cement this relationship, and so what they did was, the Tuscarora side said, you know, in our tradition, when we need to agree on something, we get together in a powwow type of thing. We talk through the issues, and then we make a decision. And so they all came together. They had their powwow, although no one ever describes it quite that way, but they had their meeting, and they decided that they wanted to be in a good, harmonious relationship. They would be one community, and since they wanted to be friends with one another, they would call their community Friendship. And this was all before the Civil War.
Thank you, Toby. Well, there's another important milestone about the Friendship history. It began when Friendship started to grow with new people coming in, and we built a high school here. The people you see here assembled are the Friends of Friendship committee that first started its active role in its destiny about what the community would be, and not only what it would be, but what it has been and will continue to be. We wanted the history, in other words, to be remembered, because the community itself changed with all the new people. So we went before the school board, and there was quite a bit of controversy in the news about the naming of the school. Well, we fought hard to get the school named Friendship High School. Well, the town of Apex was not willing to do that. They wanted it to be Apex, or West Wake County, or West Apex. At any rate, Doing some struggle, we settled on a compromise, which was the name of the school, Apex Friendship. There, soon after, I met the new principal at the high school, and I made it my business to tell him about the history of friendship and how I wanted it to be remembered. And he accepted my thoughts about it completely. And he, matter of fact, felt that it'd be a good idea to name it Friendship, although some did not want the name Friendship. They felt it was too friendly, and they couldn't compete in football and other things. They'd be picked on by the opposing team. At any rate, he and I and much of the community here embarked on a program to catch all the history we could and to document it. And we did that by finding people who knew something about the Rosenwald schools. Well, the Rosenwald School here in our community is one of few that is still remaining. It's located right down the street. So we wanted to actually highlight the Rosenwald School named Friendship. We did that by commissioning the town of Apex to raise markers, historical markers. They weren't raising any. And they said they would do that, and they developed a program whereby they could come up with a 50-50 match. The first marker we had at one of the schools is right here on the campus of the middle school. That is kind of the backdrop of where we are and where we are going in terms of capturing the history, which is the mission that we decided we needed to do. So we're going to put that marker up and any other markers that we can get, any other way we can capture our history. Now, a lot of the artifacts, the graduates from the little Friendship School is in the lobby of the high school, the Apex Friendship High School, which tells the story of all of the successes of the people who graduated the little school because they were inspired to go off and do great things, and they did. So that is the essence of where we are at this moment.
Hi, I'm Cathel Brown, the granddaughter of Laddie Scott and Bessie Scott. They were the landowners of where the Friendship Ball Field was located. The ball field was one of the highlights of this community. It brought various communities together on weekends. The two churches that were involved was Mount Zion Baptist Church and Christian Chapel Church. And it was one of those social gatherings where everyone just came and had a good time eating, cheering on the team. And one thing I want to say about my grandparents is that their names, the nicknames were called Big Mama and Big Papa. And that name is so appropriate for them because they had such a great heart. When you think in terms of, I guess that property where the ball field was about 3 acres perhaps, and not only that, it extended across the street where they had a jukebox where the teenagers could come and dance and drink soda pops and just have a good weekend of activities going on for everybody. So this community, I would say, is one of the ones that any community would want to have. Everyone got along. Everyone considered themselves family, even though some of them may not have been family, but we still call each other cousins. But the ball field was the highlight of this community, and it will always be remembered. So I just want to let you know that Friendship's name was the appropriate name, and this is a name that we need in this day and time with all the turmoil that's going on around us.
Thank you, Cathel. My name is Willie Walden. I have been a resident of Friendship going on 69 years. I've been here all my life. And I want to expound on the social aspect of the Friendship community. My memories go back a long way. But one of the things that the community of Friendship looked forward to was the weekends. Okay, during the week, everyone worked. This was farm. This was before the Industrial Revolution. This was farm. Everybody worked the fields. Everybody cropped tobacco, gardens and things of that nature. So they worked all week. And they worked all week with a key element in their mind saying the weekend is coming. We're going to ball game at Friendship, okay, where everybody gathered, families, friends, people from all around came to this area for the purpose of seeing a good ball game, having some fellowship with one another, and enjoying themselves. My grandmother, as Cathel mentioned, my grandmother and grandfather donated the land for that ball field, and they opened up a store across from the ball field where they had a jukebox, and people would come after the game was over. They would gather. People would bring their kids. It wasn't a kind of thing where it was adults only. People brought their friends, their family, and everything, and they had a good time. So, if anything came out of my life here in the community of Friendship, it was that Saturday I mentioned about, that weekend where we all came together, had a good time, fellowship with one another. And then, one more thing I want to mention. One of the key elements that I remember about the Friendship community, well, if anything ever went wrong, if anybody got sick, anybody's house caught a fire, anybody ended up on hard times, we came together. We came together as a community. There was nobody in the community that went lacking because we always pitched in and did what we needed to do to make sure that our community was together. And I'm proud to have that memory. With the things that's going on in the world today, we need to have more places like Friendship.
Thanks, Willie. My name is Deborah Judd, and I live right across the street from the Friendship Middle School and the Friendship High School. I was born and raised there. I am number 6 sibling of 7 kids in my family. I was the baby girl. I had a baby brother. I had a big brother, Larry, who always bossed us around. I remember, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the churches, first of all, because our churches, the Mount Zion Baptist Church and Greater Christian Chapel, they made us. We went to church every Sunday. We socialized on Saturday, but on Sundays we were in church. My church, Mount Zion, just celebrated our 153rd anniversary. We've been there for 153 years. We're celebrating our pastor, who's been there 43 years, this Sunday. Greater Christian Chapel is also another founding church in the community. They were stabilizers for us. My father, Willie Lee Harris, I pronounce that name very proudly because he was the love of my heart. He was the founder of the Tigers baseball team. He loved that team, and every Saturday they would get out there and play. My brothers had to play, the guys in the communities. This was a bonding time for us. We made friendship. Our neighbors we loved, we cared about. Friendship is our life, and we love friendship.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miss Deborah. So I'm Dennis Perks, and I am fortunate enough to be a career and technical education teacher here at Apex Friendship. And when I came to this position, I really didn't have an understanding of the history behind the school. I knew we had a great principal, Matt White, that Mr. Harris had mentioned, and we have a tendency to follow great leadership. And fortunately, through Miss Becky and Miss Angel, who isn't with us here today, they brought me into the Friends of Friendship committee, and I was able to meet all of the members of the community and be a small part in all the accomplishments that have been occurring. And I'll say, as an educator, 2 things that it has given me is, number one, we've already talked about the origins and what challenging times the community was going through, and And talking with Mr. Holleman's brother, one of the points he made was, if you want to understand the community, you also have to understand the context of what was going on in that time. And so this has really helped me be able to have a jumping off point in talking with students when things do seem to be getting very complicated these days with political and social forces and beyond. And it gives me some sort of universal truth that I could share with them, and that is, at the origins of this community, people who were very different made an active choice on how they wanted to live their life. And so at a time when they are being constantly bombarded because of advancements in technology, they still have a choice on how we get to treat each other. And I mean, I've never been exposed to a better example of how to spread that message. The second thing as an educator is, you know, who doesn't want to connect their learning in the classroom to the real world? And so there are countless number of opportunities. And a few that we've done so far, we had Mr. Harrison and had him talk, and the students edited a podcast of him talking about the origins. I start my semesters off by having the students research topics that I discovered in talking with Mr. Holleman's brother, everything ranging from the 1600s up through civil rights and everything in between. And so they get to be exposed to a lot of important topics in the development of the country. You know, we have other plans to have more people come in and just share their history. We're reaching out to other courses, and you know, long term we may try to build a local course that is focused on the history of the school, so this important stuff isn't forgotten. So, you know, I've never stumbled into any better opportunity in my career or been a part of something that just feels as real and genuine and valuable as the story of friendship. So I'm very blessed.
My name is Becky Ashley, and I'm a librarian with the Wake County Public School System. And the school system several years ago just understood that there was history that was being lost. And so they charged the librarians with researching these schools that Mr. Harris talked about. So Rosenwald schools were established many years ago when Black children were unable to be educated. And so during that time, Julius Rosenwald, who was the CEO of Sears and Roebuck, worked with Booker T. Washington to develop Rosenwald schools all throughout the South. And so we are very fortunate that he established one here in 1923. He worked with the local school board and with the community, and everyone worked together to fund that. And so that is why our school was named Friendship, after the community, but then as well as why Apex Friendship Schools are named that. And so I think we have just come to this amazing place now to be on this absolutely beautiful campus that's just so rich in history. And we are charged now as educators with just teaching the next generations about this history and just encouraging them to embrace the story of friendship and the idea of friendship. So with the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school here, we are just ripe with young minds. And so we go forth with that mission of teaching everyone about friendship and what it means to be a part of the community.
In order for us to feel the full impact of what we've done here, I'd like for us to talk a little bit more about the Rosenwald schools, which 5,300 and some were built from Maryland to Texas. There were 127, I believe, in the state of North Carolina, more than any other state. Unfortunately, there is only about a tenth or less of those schools still standing. When we talk to the school board, we often mention the fact that ours is still here. We weren't able to get the marker on the grounds of the little Rosenwald school, because when they were up for sale after the consolidation, during the Jim Crow era, right after, they were put up for sale. Many of them were made into social gathering places, recreational areas. Some of them were private homes. This one was actually bought as a private home, and it's still a private home, so we could not intrude onto the property to put the marker. the school and the school board in the town of Apex was fortunate enough, were generous enough to let us place it here on the campus, and that's why it is. So I want us to go and visit the marker, capture an image of it, and just to know how important it is, because it tells us a little bit about how it paved the way for little black kids. I have an aunt that's featured in the display in the lobby. She didn't start college until she was in her 40s, but she went on to get a master's, and on at age 80 to get her PhD at Howard University, and came back to Norfolk State and taught for a number of years there in the English department. She educated all her kids. She has one lawyer and two other girls that are both PhDs and teachers. That is the connects the dot as to what the little Rosenwald schools meant to so many black communities all over the South. There are other things that we plan to do with that site. The additional work that needs to be done yet in the community and recognizing the history is to get the names of the families. And one attempt to do that was an idea that Mr. White had, the former principal here, is to put pavers around the marker and give people an opportunity to put their name on it. That was done early on when the school was first built, but not everybody was able to buy a brick at that time. Hopefully more people will have a chance to do that. We're also going to raise a marker at the site of the Friendship Baseball diamond on home plate. There were two other schools other than in our area other than Friendship School. One was the New Hill School that was burnt down. It would turn into a nightclub and burnt down. But we also raised one at the Tension Road Apex Consolidated School, is where all the people who left the little schools went to graduate high school, myself and others here. So I want to get a little bit more into our video about the Rosenwald schools and their importance.